Hi, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Wes.
Welcome to Livewire Review. Today we have a fun episode for you. We brought Wes with his personal car. He has a 2019 Tesla Model 3 Performance. And you all know I have the 22 Tesla Model 3 Long Range. Well, we're going to talk about some things that are the same, some things that are different. I've got a couple of questions for him, and we wanted to see what kind of repairs he's done in the past. So, without further ado, let's kick it off.
All right, so a few of the repairs that have had to happen, one being the column on the inside here kept falling off. And it wasn't a hard repair, and it was covered by Tesla, but it was a big pain in the butt for a while, to be honest.
Oh, you must be talking about the little pillar panel right here in
Correct.
between the doors. Yeah, they got really little small clips in them, and they don't hold on very well.
Correct, yes. And so the good part, at least, is it was covered. Another repair I had, which was a more expensive and out-of-pocket repair, was the brakes. Because I'm new to one-pedal driving,
Yep.
and I was very efficient at not using the brakes, the challenge I had is I didn't service it every 30,000 like you're supposed to.
Every 30,000. I suggest once a year, every spring, right? Check out our other video on the Tesla spring maintenance, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Okay, even better. So what happened is they pitted because I used them so little and they seized.
Yeah.
So do follow that maintenance because that was a significant bill, let's say.
Oh yeah, especially on this one. You got the performance rotors and the performance pads and your 4-piston Brembo calipers. That's not a cheap setup.
No, it cost a little.
Yeah. Okay, next thing you wanted to talk about was the paint, right?
Yeah, so what happened is I found at the wheel wells, the paint's chipped pretty easy. So the front's actually pretty good for stone chips, but I find the wheel wells, they've had numerous chips. What's interesting is that with Tesla, they don't service that in-house. They actually have local providers. So in my case, I took it to the paint shop. They've quoted me, Tesla has agreed to cover it, and now I just have to take it in to get repainted and touched up.
That's a good point you bring up. So I've noticed that the paint quality on Teslas is actually fairly poor. This is very well reported. We all know that. So I've always compared a Tesla's paint quality to something like Ford. They have a lot of aluminum panels in it. It's very similar to what Ford does. Ford has aluminum hoods, MDXs have aluminum hoods and things like that. These have, I believe, aluminum doors, aluminum front panel. I think the fenders in the front are aluminum as well.
I'm not sure, but yeah, we'll have to double check that one.
But I agree with you. On my car especially, I've noticed at the front end, the rock chips are okay. I did not put paint protection film on the front of my car. I just do the paint chips every once in a while with the color chip. But I have noticed in certain other areas of the car, Hyundai, Toyota, Honda, companies that are well established, they know the rocker panels are a place that you really need to take better care of the paint. And Tesla hasn't learned that lesson yet. Even on the newer builds, there is still no rocker guard on these cars. So if you do plan on getting a Tesla, I highly recommend getting paint protection film on the rocker panels especially. I did that, and I preemptively put a little bit of paint protection film on the inside of my fenders. For what Wes was talking about here is I noticed that this is a very sharp edge, so I wanted to make sure that was protected. And I'm not surprised that this is having an issue with the chipping.
Well, I wish I'd met you a bit earlier.
Well, the car's pushing almost 4 years old now.
Yep, it's got about 73,000 K on it, so.
Not bad. So what were you just asking me about the range?
Yeah, so on mine, obviously being a little bit older and the battery being a little more worn, my max, well, and the performance also starts with less range, runs about 489 if I go to 100% or close.
Yeah.
What does yours sit at?
Well, mine is rated at 576 kilometers. We've talked about this before. 576 is only achievable when you're going on, say, back roads or something like that. If I'm screaming down the highway at 120, 130, we went 420 kilometers one day and we still had 9% left. And we've said it before, there's a little bit of range hidden below zero. So the real range, I'd say, is around 550, 450 to 550, depending on how you drive it.
Okay, so you definitely get another 50, 60K for sure out of it.
It's not going to be forever though. Remember, my car's a little newer. How much does the battery degrade, when the car's new and over time? I bet at your age, you're probably in the 5 to 7% degradation point, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I'd be about
like
that. So the cars look very similar. If we were to do a walk around on both of them, extremely similar. One of the cool though aesthetic differences that I really wish I had on mine, and I know I can get done, is the black accenting. Mine are all chrome everywhere across. I do like the graphite tail. I personally like it over the standard one, but the chrome, I would totally take your black over the chrome in my opinion, so I think that's a great upgrade. Is there other upgrades that you know about on the cars from the age from 19
Oh,
to 20?
between our two cars?
Yeah.
I know your car comes with a resistive heater. In 2021, they added the very, very well-known octavalve heat pump in this one. So that's part of the reason why the efficiency is so much better, is because of that heat pump. It's built into every part of the car. It's the cooling system goes around the battery, it goes around the drivetrain, it goes around even the Autopilot computer. So it draws heat from every part of the car imaginable. It's just so handy.
Does it also help in the winter or no?
Of course it helps in the winter. Yeah, this heat pump is actually so ingenious. If you have any heat at all, say you're driving down the highway on the 401, and it'll actually pick up heat from the battery, even at say -20, -24. Where it's really not gonna make a difference though is, let's say it's -30 and below. You're really just gonna be running mostly the compressor's heat. The compressor will make its own heat.
Okay. Any other differences?
Let's see, we have headlights here. The headlights in this one are just your normal reflector style, and this one is a dot matrix style. So what that means is there's actually 3 rows of pixels in the headlights. They're not using them right now. What they do right now is they cut out a little V by turning off 3 pixels. In the future, they're actually going to program it. So when the camera sees a car coming, they'll be able to cut out segments of light as the car comes at you. I think that'll be pretty neat.
Well, that's pretty cool, because I got to be honest, when you referred to dot matrix, I'm thinking old school printers here.
And it literally is that bad, because it is 3 rows of pixels. But it is a headlight, so how fancy does it have to be?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's a big improvement, or potentially once it's integrated.
Yeah, but I've driven both these cars, and the headlight performance from both of them is about the same. It'll just be that interesting future for this car.
Cool. Well, let's see how it plays out.
Yeah. So Wes was just saying that he has aftermarket rims and tires on here. Now, why was that significant?
Well, one of the big things I did find out is because, keeping in mind that this sedan is one of the heaviest sedans for its size, based on having this huge battery sitting at the bottom of it, is that you do want to be very careful that you choose rims that are appropriate for the vehicle.
Yep.
In the sense of structural strength and stuff like that. So just don't trust that the bolt pattern's the same and you're good to go. That's probably a big warning.
Definitely test fitted on this one, because the size of those brakes actually limits your options.
Yeah, well, and you want to make sure even the offset's right and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The other thing is the rubber matters, just because if the rubber's meant for a lighter vehicle, it can wear heavier and wear quicker. So you just want to be a little conscious of it, just because I think it's important to keep in mind so that you're getting good use out of the vehicle and good value per dollar.
Yeah, now I actually kind of prefer the rims that it did come with, because in the 2019, the Model 3 Performance rims are really attractive.
And I do have those for the other set, yes.
Yeah, those are nice set of rims.
Yeah, and they go good with the chrome, but because I like the black so much, I'm kind of jealous. So.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite thing about this car?
Honestly, the acceleration.
It's always the acceleration. It's my favorite thing about electric cars. Low end torque, always there, always ready to pass. You know what your 0 to 60 figures are on this?
Yeah, so sitting in around, I believe right now, based on its age, around 3.4. I heard it could do as low as 3.2. I don't know if that's true, but I've seen about 3.4 on this age.
Yeah, I think they actually gave you a software update, which shaved off about 0.2 seconds for all the cars. So I bet you your car's probably in the 3.2 range.
Yeah, honestly, the fun part is because I can do it with my kids in the back.
Yep.
I was, at a light, there was a nice 5-liter Mustang, young guy with his girlfriend, and at the next light, when my kids roll down the window to wave at them after we dust them, it's a fun thing.
Yeah, I know. I had a 5-liter Mustang, and it was a stick shift. We mentioned that in our Mach-E GT video. That thing was fun. You gotta check that thing out. Oh yeah. This and the Mustang GT, Mach-E GT, they launch fairly similar, but this one's faster because it's lighter. It's got more power. I think you're sitting around 450 horsepower in this thing.
Yeah, I think that's what the estimate is on it, yeah.
Yeah, mine's kind of hard because they changed the motors through the years. It's somewhere between 348 and 367. But you can buy the upgrade package where they'll send some software to you and you lower your 0 to 60 time down to 3.7. But this car has one thing that mine does not. track mode.
I was gonna ask you if yours had track mode, because I absolutely love it for it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, so my car is just basically safety on wheels. You're not allowed to do anything with that car. But with Wes's car, he has track mode. So that means that you can turn off all the nannies. It'll give you just enough slip to have some fun. And you can do it in the winter, you can do some slides. I can't do that with my car. I have to mess with the car to be able to do that. So you mentioned one more repair that you had on this car. You said it was the front struts. What did you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so car started squeaking at the front. I was relatively new to the car. I actually bought it used.
And it wasn't the upper control arms?
So technically it became two things.
Yeah,
I ended out repairing the upper control arms and the struts.
Yeah.
But it was all covered under warranty, which was quite impressive to me.
Yeah.
Factoring the you know how many clicks I have on the car and the age.
Yes.
I was
you
actually
said around 70,000, right?
72 and change, I believe.
You have the latest up 73,000 kilometers on this car. Okay.
Yeah. So I was really happy with that. That they actually covered it.
Oh, that's good. And that's covered under the basic warranty, 4-year 80K here in Canada.
Oh.
Every time, never gets old.
I'm a big kid at heart. Oh, if I can give a piece of advice to the viewers, though, anyone who gets a vehicle like this, an electric vehicle, everyone wants to see the acceleration.
Yep.
Give them a warning. First time they do it, tell them to put their head back.
Yeah.
Especially if it's someone a bit elderly, like my mom. She's late 70s, early 80s, and she wanted me to show her how fast it was.
Yeah.
So I warned her, got her to put her head back, just because you really can't cause neck strain and stuff for someone who's not prepared.
Yeah.
It is that significant out of the gates.
Or as I found with some of my son's friends, where they get car sick if you take them accelerating too fast.
Well, see, where my son loves it because it makes his stomach feel like a roller coaster, right? It feels like it's dropping out on him.
Yep, that's my favorite part. My kids love going to Wonderland. We do it almost every weekend. Because it costs us, what, $2.08 to go to Wonderland and back?
So one of the improvements your car has over mine is, for example, this front compartment here. Yours is a power one. I have to touch it, which is not bad. The problem is when you go to close it, you gotta be really gentle. Tesla even had a warning sign.
Yeah, it's just like their hoods where you have to take two hands to close the hood, right?
Exactly.
It was one of the updates I was happy to have when I got the car. I waited for the 21 model because of the heat pump. As you guys know, I bought the Kona before I bought the Tesla because in these years they had a resistive heater, and I like heat pump technology. I don't like wasted heat in an electric car. It doesn't make sense to me, so I held out for things like that. I noticed you have a wireless charger in yours. Did you have to add that, or did that come with the car?
No, that came stock.
Now, I've been on social media, and I've seen a lot of weird comments. Like, nobody looks this stuff up in me, because I'm a car guy, but they were asking about wireless chargers, and people were saying, oh, well, mine overheats. Mine doesn't charge my phone. Mine broke. A Hyundai, we actually keep them in stock. We have to change them out every once in a while. But all the Tesla owners are like, mine works. And I'm in the same boat, and I didn't realize why that was true until I actually saw that they sell a wireless charger for your house. And that wireless charger has a whole bunch of different coils in it. So that way it doesn't matter where you stick your phone on that pad, it's going to work.
Yeah, and for example, on my case, if you can see, I even have a kickstand on it, and it works just fine and charges no problems. And
yep. Even my wife was impressed with that feature because it doesn't matter where you throw the phone, it works, it charges quickly, and it doesn't overheat.
How about for you? A question for you. One pedal driving, how have you found it? See, it's something I, for some reason, feel very comfortable with.
In this car, yes. You've seen me do a lot of reviews in different cars, and some of them just feel so alien to me that I turn it off right away and I go back to using the brake pedal. But that's because in most cars, the brake pedal is blended. It's not like the Tesla. The Tesla's brake pedal is actually just a brake pedal. All it does is operate the master cylinder, pushes the brake fluid through the ABS. In other cars, it's a blended brake pedal. So that means that when you push it down, it's actually simulated. So your regen happens before your braking does. And it depends on the manufacturer whether it's going to feel nice or not. I know Toyota does not do a good job of this. Hyundai does a pretty good job, but in the Ford and the Nissan, they didn't feel natural to me. So I just stuck to no one pedal driving in those cars. I stuck to hitting the brake pedal.
Well, like even for example on this trip, as much as we've been talking and stuff, in general I haven't even had to use the brake to stop to the stop signs, because the one nice thing I do know about Tesla that some others don't have is it does go to a full stop.
It goes
some
to
of
a
them
full
some
stop.
of them will just keep creeping.
Yeah.
And to be honest, part of my comfort is knowing that I don't have to touch the brake, because once I get there, like I am here, we're stopped.
Exactly. And it becomes predictable over time. You're going to find in the Tesla products, they change the regen level that you get. So when it gets cold outside, the regen changes with the weather. Until the battery warms up, you're going to have a lot less regen. They fix that with a software update, but I don't use this feature because I don't want the brakes to apply. I like to make them last as long as possible. They blend in the brakes now, if you choose that option on the menu.
Okay. And the actually, see, I'm learning a ton today too. That's great. The other thing I have noticed, of course, is if you charge close to max, the regen feature is heavily degraded to a certain percentage, I assume, of the total battery, and then it kicks in heavier.
Yeah, every car manufacturer does something a little different. This is going to get boring, so just try and stay awake if you can. When you charge a lithium-ion battery, it's a very strange chemistry. It likes to be between 3 volts and 4.2 volts. I know it doesn't make any sense, but technically 0% on a lithium-ion battery is 3 volts. And that's just for one cell. Don't take this, take it with a grain of salt, honestly. So, yeah, okay, you're driving.
I
so
gotta
it's a good
put
thing
on
we have
autopilot to make sure we're safe, okay?
Yeah, okay, so in Tesla, at 100%, they're hovering around that 4.2 volts mark, which is not common for most electric vehicles. The Hyundai, the Nissan, the Ford, they all have something called a usable capacity. They actually lock out the top part of the battery to prevent you from charging 100% every day. That way, they know your battery's going to last for 1,500 charge cycles. They can guarantee 1,500 charge cycles out of it. The battery in your laptop or in your cell phone, whether it has a cheaper battery or a better battery, charges between 500 and 800 cycles. A high quality battery does 800 cycles. The reason a car can do 1,500 is because they lock out those 2 sections of the battery. Tesla doesn't do that. That's why they recommend charging to 90% or less every day with this particular car and the long range.
Right, yes.
With the standard range, from 2022 onwards, that's not the case because lithium iron phosphate, totally different battery chemistry. We'll talk about that more later, maybe not in this video though, because we're already falling asleep at the wheel, as you can see.
The one thing I will say on the car with the full self-driving, it is impressive.
Yeah.
It's just, they keep improving it constantly, and I do believe they limit it a little based on, obviously, on regulations put in place by the government.
Yep.
So, for example, you know, if I have it on full autopilot, I can take my hands, feet off, but within 5 to 10 seconds, it's going to kick in to say, hey, get your hand back on the wheel.
Yep.
But I have found when you keep the little pressure on the hand on the wheel, it is quite good. Its lane changes are crisp. It's really good at entering a highway. And for somebody like me, that's very nerving, just because I grew up with a stick shift. And so it's, I'm quite impressed how quickly I was able to adapt as an older person. You know, someone who grew up on the stick shift. So I can't wait to see where this gets to.
Yeah, and it changes over time. That actually brings me into the wipers. What do you think of the automatic wipers in this car?
For me, mediocre, if I'm being honest.
Mediocre. You're being very generous.
Yeah, no, it's not my favorite. I will be honest. Yeah, no, it's probably the feature that needs one of the most amount of reworking, in my opinion.
Not only that, when you turn on your washer fluid, do you get wet?
Oh, you mean if my window's open?
Yeah.
Actually, it's pretty good. I don't know what happened. I don't know, maybe something broke, because when I first had it, yes, and then last year or two, no.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, but my biggest caveat with it is you get wet. It doesn't make any sense. Now, Elon Musk, he's not the best at public speaking, but he mentioned something about the neural net. I didn't understand what that was. I understand all Tesla cars, they share information. That's why their range estimates are so good. That's why they can estimate superchargers so well. They're so easy to live with because you enter a destination and it just knows almost down to the percent what you're going to have when you get there and when you get back, and it's accurate. So neural net is these cameras up here. These cameras up here, there are 3 of them. There is a short distance, there is a medium distance, and a long distance. And from what I gather, neural net actually means that they use all 3 cameras and they give the computer depth perception, just like your eyes, except for with 3 cameras instead of 2. So I think that's going to work really well. He said recently that the wipers are going to be put on the neural net soon. So hopefully our wiper problems will go away. Okay, let's go.
Let's do it.
Well, even at slow speeds, I feel a little more pickup in this than I do in my car.
So, actually, what do you like most about your car? The chain.
Same as you. I like the acceleration.
Okay, good.
I also love that it's all-wheel drive. I did have the standard range at first, and then I went and bought the long range. We didn't get the performance at the time because it was an extra $10,000. It's a little hard to convince your wife to get a $10,000 more vehicle when you're already spending over 70 grand. Feels a little tighter than my car. Obviously, there's not much difference. Behind the driver's seat, they do feel very similar. It's going to be hard to nitpick the differences between the 2 cars, especially running winter tires versus all seasons. It is going to eat up some of the performance. But I am feeling a corner a little bit flatter than the long range does.
Well, and if you put it in track mode, you're welcome to feel what it feels a little different like, because you definitely can split the distribution, right, of the feeling.
Okay, let's do that with a little bit of rear bias, because I think that's what everybody would drive this with. I'm going to be careful with this. So when you're in track mode, it turns on the cooling maximum, so that way it keeps the motors cool. And what's really neat is to give you a graphic here showing the temperature of the tires, which is done through the TPMS sensors. I like how they're doing that. That's pretty cool. It shows you the temperature of the battery and the front and rear drive unit. So let's just give this a little woo!
And it shows the...
And it's got maximum regen. This is good. Some people try and draw a picture with that. That's fun. Let's push it into the corner. Oh, yeah. Now, this is a car you're going to have some fun in.
So you do want track mode then?
Oh, I definitely want track mode. But, of course, we're not going to get the tires to chirp here because it's a nice summer day. But let's see what it's like from a dig. Oh, that pushes you in your seat. But no wheel spin.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, though, because that actually shows you the chassis is really well set up.
Well, and that's that low center of gravity, what a difference it makes, right?
Yeah, it's an inch lower if I'm right about that. And the fact that they keep the motor in the back, the battery in the middle, and another motor in the front. And I like the way they set this up. They actually show you in the graphic here. The drivetrain in the Model 3s are slightly ahead of the rear axle. If you get in the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 6, it's more like a Porsche 911. They have all the weight hanging out over the back end. And I found this chassis isn't super well sorted because of that. It doesn't handle very well. I get back in this car and it handles more like a mid-engine sports car. You actually have, what was it, a Porsche Boxster?
Porsche Boxster S, yeah.
Yeah, so 2008 if I'm remembering
That's
right.
correct. Very good memory, yes.
And that would be a mid-engine car. So how do you feel that one compares to this car? That one's obviously a lot lighter. I think this one's sitting around just around 4,000 pounds.
Yeah, that one's probably half.
Yeah.
Well, the big thing is, first of all, it's stick shift, so 6-speed. Boxer engine, and it's more raw, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I've slid that out, but you have to be very careful. If you don't know what you're doing, you can ditch that car very easy too.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's more fun because it's a bit scarier, if you want to say that.
There was a period of my life where I had mostly 2000 to 2002 Mustang GTs, and part of the reason I enjoyed them back then, I don't anymore, honestly, is because they were very hard to drive. I know, it's the dumbest reason to have a car, but the clutch was terrible, the transmission was terrible, the suspension was even worse. You tried to take off from a dig and you got wheel hop, and then you tried to get into second gear and it was terrible. But it was fun. I get it. It's an engaging part of the car. I'm over that now. I really do like these cars. I love the point and shoot. I love that you go 0 to 60 in 3 and a bit seconds anywhere you want. Yeah, it's the only other thing I found with these cars. I love everything about this car, but over time, do you find you get any rattles? Because I know yours is older than mine is.
Well, okay, you're in it, so I'm in it all the time.
Yeah.
So outside the tire noise from the winter tires, which you would expect.
Which is the only thing that I can actually hear.
Well, the thing is, I'm actually quite impressed that I don't have more rattles.
Yeah.
For the number of K I put on, if I put this against pretty much any other car I've had, I would have had more rattles by now.
So yeah, keep that in mind. If you're trying to choose between this or the long range really does go a bit further, but it has more to do with the heat pump and some of the later upgrades. So if you get a performance model now, it's not going to go that much less distance than the long range. One of the biggest differences between the two cars is one has a 21-inch wheel and the other one has an 18-inch wheel with all seasons. That 21-inch wheel has summer tires. We put summer tires on our Hyundai Kona, which is rated at 415 kilometers range. We can get anywhere from between 350 and 485 with that car. But with the summer tires on it, it's like driving in the winter. We lose about 50 kilometers of range with summer tires. So getting the Performance Model 3, those summer tires are going to have the biggest difference on your range rather than the car itself. The drivetrain itself is still pretty efficient. So if you have the extra money, I would recommend going for the Performance. I think it's worth the extra money, but just budget for the fact that you might want to buy a set of all-season tires to go on it with a slightly smaller rim.
And if I can add, the other thing to keep in mind or to consider is the fact that actually the used ones are pretty good. I'm quite happy with mine.
Yep.
You do save a little bit. And the other thing, be careful on leasing, because if you lease with Tesla in Canada anyway, you have to return it. There is no buyout option.
Don't lease a Tesla.
So, not directly from Tesla.
They're fairly up there with Toyota when it comes to resale value. I don't know how they pulled that off, but they did. So honestly, buy it every time. I haven't seen a reason not to buy it rather than leasing. There's no advantage to leasing.
Well, especially with no buyout option on the lease, it's kind of a little bit disappointing for me, like that they don't offer a buyout option, that you have to return it. So I personally agree, because I can't believe how little value I've lost since I bought it until today.
Yeah, now they have gone down a bit recently because of some of the price drops, but we needed those price drops. They were shooting up a little high due to some constraints with building them.
And then the other thing, full self-driving, make a decision if it's worth it, because that's an expensive upgrade.
In my boat, especially with the price that keeps rising on it, I don't see it as a good investment. Put your ideas down in the comments. I want to hear from you. I've heard some very interesting comments on full self-driving. Personally, I don't recommend it. Wes, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I love it, but to be fair, when I bought it, it was an $8,000 feature, and I think it's now like 18.
At least 15.5, pushing 16, 17, 18. You're looking at almost another car payment on top.
So I may have made a different decision if the price is what it is today.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, some of it's really cool, but we're still in a lot of beta, and until we get the regulations so we can really take our hands off the wheel, it probably isn't worth it.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Okay, we've had some fun. We took these cars for a drive. We gave you some ideas on what we thought, and we've talked about their repairs. I think it's time to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. And as always, leave a comment down below. We want to know what you think. We want to know what you want to see in the future. What did you think about today's episode, Wes?
Well, first of all, it's great to compare two amazing cars, and I do appreciate you having me on, because you've probably forgotten more than I ever knew. So I do appreciate you having me.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.